This old guy DIY video has to do with installing the $480 rear hydraulic kit from Tractor Innovations on a 1987 Kubota L2550. So I just thought I'd show you what I received. The stuff came in a box. I got it from Oregon to Michigan in 4 days. It comes with good instructions with pictures, English, large font, so that's all encouraging. And I'm not very good at listening. I've always looked at directions and rules as suggestions, whether it's a speed limit or seat belts or stuff like this where they say, hey, attach some hoses first and then let's worry about mounting and then we'll go to the back of the tractor. So I took their instructions, I read them, took it under advisement and decided to do something different. So I wanted to know where I was going to have this valve mounted to start with. So I took the panel off here, found 30 years worth of dust and dirt and whatever, and I loosened this up so I can get behind it with a bolt. And then I drilled two 3/8 inch holes, and I'm using 3/8 inch bolts of my own in this case. And also to get a little clearance from this piece of fascia, I'm going to put a 1/2 inch bolt in there as a spacer, so my control valve will be mounted 1/2 inch off of the tractor. So the installation seems pretty straightforward. You have the valve, and what we're going to do is interrupt the circuit that's going from the hydraulics here on the tractor. We're going to disconnect 2 of these lines here, take those lines, connect them here to this block, which effectively will bring the hydraulics to the block, and then using this little plunger we can either send that hydraulic fluid to the bucket lift or to the lines that go around the back of the tractor. In my case, I'll be using it for a corn planter. So anyway, we go up to the front of the tractor, and I want to use the lift cylinder. So I follow these guys back, and it tells me these bottom 2 of 4 are the ones that I have to access. So I'll find the right size open end wrenches, and I'll open those things up. And then I'll take these 2 lines and attach them to these 2 open fittings that they left for me. They said to put the rear one to the rear and the front one to the front, so we'll do that. And then I take the lines that come here from the new unit and attach those here. And then the second set of lines I just ran down along and under the tractor. And I'm going to have them mounted right here with the quick disconnects. So now that I have the holes drilled up there, I'll go ahead and mount this, and I'll open up those hydraulic lines, and then I'll show you how it's going. So when I'm working in a situation like this, since I have large hands, I prefer to just put a flat washer on the bolt, insert the bolt from the back, and then I can do all my work here on the front. And it's real easy for me to see what's going on, and then in the course of life of the vehicle, if the nuts ever start to back off for some reason, I can see it before they actually fall off. So it just makes it easier for me. And to get the bolts in there, I just held the bolt with a channel locks, went down on the inside, put the bolt in place, so now I can mount the hydraulic unit. And I'm just using 1/2 inch nuts as spacers to allow that cylinder, or say that little valve, to stand away from the tractor a little bit. Now I have the valve mounted, and it's time to go on to the lines over here. I was unable to get the angle to get these 2 fittings. You need a 22mm socket, then I was using a 7/8 to hold the block. So I had to remove this little piece, and now these lines will work where I can actually work on them. But it just took 2 bolts with 13mm heads, and now I'm in there where I can work. So what I just learned in this operation is you can't take these things off without removing the other end first, because the coupling that actually allows some adjustment is on this end. So as I started loosening those, I was just wrapping the hydraulic hose into a damn slinky. That's no good for anybody. So I'm going to have to come over here and loosen this up first and then I can go get that line off. And now, because of the way my tractor is set up and the fittings that came on the unit, I'm going to have to separate this fitting from this and then plug this line directly into the steel here. And then to make that happen, I have to come back here and loosen this thing up so I don't have the twisting line issue I just described on the other one. Well, I'm back for round 2. Last night at about 8 o'clock Eastern time, I called Andy at Tractor Innovations and sent him a picture of the union here between the block and the rubber line, and also the valve that he sent me. And he agreed that for my tractor I need this style valve with the male fittings up here on the top to go to the loader, and I need these female fittings here in the middle, or I can pull these lines apart and take this type of fitting off and just switch them around that way. So I tried getting these things off with my open end wrenches, and they're on tighter than hell. So what I'm going to do today is take these 2 lines to the vise on the bench and separate the fittings from the end and see if I can't get this thing together. So this is turning out to be like Gilligan's Island. Based on their ad, I thought it was going to be a 30-minute adventure. I have an hour and a half into it so far because the lines that as is received do not work with my 1987 L2550, but I'll update you as I get further in the process. While trying to take this joint apart this morning, I found that I couldn't do it with open end wrenches. I then put this fitting in the vise and went to my trusty dusty Milwaukee Impact with a 22mm socket, and that just spun all the flats off the thing. So then I went to the hot torch, and after I heated up, I was able to take it off with the open end wrenches. And now I have this line connected over here, and I've run the bottom line in there, and it's time to try line number 2. On this second fitting, I tried heating it for 8 seconds first, and I could not break this thing loose with these open end wrenches. So then I applied another 15 seconds of heat to it. I just counted to 15, and then I was able to remove it with the open end wrenches. So of course my second line is right down here in the middle. So I have to take this one off so I can get to that one. More work for the 22mm. So this is the line that was on my tractor. Down here, you can see where I removed it. And this is the fitting that I had to heat and take off of the unit as received from Tractor Innovations. And now I'm putting this thing back on, and then this line will come over here and fit on this input line, and I'll put this line back where it belongs in the block over here. So I have the block tightened up, so my lines going from this distribution block to the little Tractor Innovations block are in place. Now I just have to hook up the 2 lines that will go from this side of the valve to the bucket. As I'm connecting these fittings, this one that I buggered up trying to remove it, remove the end fitting that came from the factory, I'll just hold with a vice grip while I crank this thing down. Well, everything is installed. So now for the moment of truth. It's going to be loud when I start the tractor, so I'll fire it up and check and confirm that I have the bucket raising when I want it to, and be back to you. I have the bucket functions, so that's encouraging. I have my forward and down, up and down correct, and I don't have anything to put on the back right now to set the back. There's this valve pushed in, you're sending your hydraulic power to the bucket. When you pull this valve out, the hydraulic fluid is going to the back fitting. So we'll call this a success. It took about 4 hours rather than the 30 minutes I was hoping for, but it's done. So this is the wrap-up video. In summary, I now have rear hydraulics on this 1987 Kubota L2550. That's where I decided to mount them. And I just got off the phone with Andy in Oregon, and In summary, I'd say this was a good $480 spent. And as I told him, I'm glad there's a guy out there who says, I'm willing to try to make your 30-year-old tractor work like something brand new. And the only thing I suggest is if you have an older tractor like this, when you place the order, talk to Andy and send him a picture of the joint right here where the metal and the steel meet, so he'll be sure to have the fittings in the correct orientation. And the other thing I learned in this adventure is if you have to take off any of the fittings that come to you from Tractor Innovations, just use 15 seconds of heat. I used propane, I applied it to the fitting, I counted to 15, and then I was able to turn them off with an open end wrench. Prior to using 15 seconds of heat, I tried to slide a 22 millimeter impact socket on there with the biggest impact gun that Milwaukee Tools makes on the 18 volt M18 model, and all I did is spin this fitting right in the vise. So overall, looks like it's going to be a great product for me. I really enjoyed talking to Andy. I'm glad he's a guy that started his own business and said, hey, I'm going to try to make life a little easier and less expensive for all these guys that have tractors and want to add a rear hydraulic setup. And I haven't tied them in with zip ties yet under the tractor. I'll take care of that. But after I put the block in, I thought I've had this tractor for 15 years and never gave it a bath. So I just washed it for the first time in 15 years and it's good to go. I hope this video helped you. Have a great day.